Oh, never, never kick a retard. Oh, never. Never do it. Okay. I've got to explain that now. That's how it works in radio. If you say something, you have to explain it. Well, let me explain it. Welcome, by the way, to the Sunday radio broadcast. Tuesday on the Mix, by the way. If you're listening to us on the Mix on Tuesday, thank you. I had of course, as everybody knows, I do the kickboxing, as Johnny Kim would say. Oh, he does a kickboxing. Well, we had I sparred a kid the other day, a special needs MMA fighter, as I like to call him. And he kicked, and he kicked back, and I'll tell you, I've learned my lesson. Never kick a retard. Now, I shouldn't say these things because I don't think he's retarded. I just think he's just a little bit off, we'll say. So it's a sad state of affairs I've got myself into. But never kick a retard, as they say. Don't do it. Don't ever kick him. Don't ever kick him. So we are gonna go to our first guest today here on our big program. We're gonna call Susan Shumsky. My advice to her is never kick a retard. Don't do it. So, we're going to go to Susan. She's going to join us here in a few seconds via the magic of Skype audio.
Hello.
And there's Susan. How are you, my friend? It's James Lowe from the Sunday radio broadcast calling you for your radio interview. How are you today, my friend?
I'm great. How are you today, James?
Pretty good, actually. You are fantastic. You have been on many of our broadcasts before, and we love having you.
Awesome.
First of all, for the folks that haven't heard you before on our program, give us a little bit of background on yourself. Tell us a little about you.
Well, I have been teaching meditation for 50 years. I have 14 books in print, and I have done over 1,000 media interviews.
Well, you are very popular, and you are a heck of a good sport. So I can see why you have been on a lot of radio and TV. We've got some cool topics today. We're going to be talking with Susan Shumsky today. First of all, how do we find you online?
Okay, so my website, one of my websites is drsusan.org.
Okay.
That's drsusan.org, and also susanshumsky.com.
Fantastic.
And also divinetravels.com. That's my travel site for tours and retreats and cruise ship seminars. That's Divine Travels, that's plural, travels, travels.com.
We have got Susan Shumsky with us today. She is an intuition and meditation expert. She's also an award-winning author of Maharaji and Me, Seeking Enlightenment with the Beatles Guru, and the founder of Divine Revelation. And she joins us today here on our broadcast. I want to start this first segment here with you, my friend, about the hidden meanings of lyrics on some of the Beatles albums, in particularly the White Album. With Paul McCartney getting over 33 million hits on YouTube for Carpool Karaoke, he's appeared on 60 Minutes, his first #1 album in over 36 years, and the upcoming release of the 50th anniversary of the White Album on November 9th. The Beatles are more relevant today than they've been for decades, and Susan Shumsky knows all about it. She spent 22 years in the ashrams and 6 years on the personal staff of the Beatles guru Maharaji. He was a yogi, he was a founder of transcendental meditation, and Susan has 14 books in print. And she has been on all the different media. She's been with Alan Colmes on Fox News. She's been on Washington Post. She's been all over the place. Now, what was it really like in the Maharaji's ashram in the Rakesh?
Yeah, in Maharishi's ashram in Rishikesh, India. It's in the foothills of the Himalayas.
Okay.
And it's in a jungle. The dwellings that he built there were very primitive kind of dwellings. We stayed in cinder block dwellings with cement floors, and there wasn't enough heat. There were space heaters in every room, but they just blew out the fuses.
Yes.
And then we had lukewarm showers, or 2 cold showers, and the toilets were outdoors, and it was kind of, like camp or something. So, yeah, but it was a beautiful setting. It was high up on a cliff, 150 feet high from the Ganges River, overlooking the Ganges River, in a very sacred area, and the Himalayas were nearby. It's in the foothills of the Himalayas. And so it was kind of an idyllic setting for meditation and for going very deep into spiritual experiences.
We have got a great guest with us today. She joins us live here in our broadcast, Susan Shumsky, and she has got a lot of media interviews she's been doing on this topic, with Paul McCartney basically becoming real popular again. She is in way demand. Tell us a little bit about some of the 3 real reasons that the Beatles left India in a huff, and why it wasn't about Mia Farrow. Tell us a little about this.
Yeah, a lot of people think that the reason the Beatles left India was because of Mia Farrow and Maharishi making a pass at her. In fact, she left India an entire month before John and George left. Okay, so Ringo left after 10 days because he was uncomfortable there, and his wife was terrified of insects, the millipedes, the centipedes, the scorpions. And he was very uncomfortable because he couldn't handle the food. He had brought an entire suitcase of Heinz beans with him, but, that wasn't quite enough for him to stay for very long. So they left after 10 days. Paul McCartney had come with Jane Asher, and she had a theatrical commitment. So they left after 5 weeks. So the only Beatles that were left were John Lennon and George Harrison, and they stayed for 2 months. However, at some point near the end of their stay, there was a film deal that went south because Maharishi had promised exclusive rights to make a film to the Beatles and had negotiated a contract, but unfortunately had made the same contract with someone else. So when the someone else, which was 4-Star Productions, arrived in Rishikesh, India, to shoot a film, one morning, early in the morning, John Lennon appeared at the door to his bungalow. He opened the door, and what was there in the courtyard was a cameraman and a director who yelled, "Action!" And, John Lennon and George didn't know anything about this other film. So they were expected to be 2-bit players in this other film, and they got very angry about it. They refused to leave their rooms. They refused to go to the lecture hall where the cameras and lights were set up. So they were very disillusioned by that, and they thought Maharishi was using them for publicity. So that's one of the 3 reasons why they left in a huff.
We've got Susan Shumsky with us today. She joins us live. Now, you're going to be speaking in, I believe it's the 9th through the 11th of November. You're going to be doing a symposium out in, I believe, New Jersey. Tell us a little bit about this.
So there's a White Album Symposium at Monmouth University in New Jersey, and that's taking place from November 8th to the 11th, and I'll be one of the speakers. It's a White Album Symposium, meaning all the Beatles authors and experts in the field about the White Album will be at the at the event, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. There'll be a lot of music, and it'll be great.
We've got Susan Shumsky with us today. She joins us live here in our program. Coast to coast and border to border on TuneIn, iTunes, and Radio Loyalty. Also the mix on Tuesdays. And Susan Shumsky with us today here in our broadcast. Now, tell us about your book. I want to make sure that people pick up your book and get a little bit more info about you. Tell us about your book, my friend.
Right. So my latest book is a memoir, Maharishi and Me, Seeking Enlightenment with the Beatles Guru. And it's about my crazy, wild, emotional roller coaster ride that I went on living for 22 years in the ashrams of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and 6 years on his personal staff. And he was the guru of the Beatles, the guru of Deepak Chopra, and many other really famous celebrities, including even today, people like Katy Perry and Hugh Jackman, Russell Brand, a lot of Cameron Diaz, a lot of very famous actors, Tom Hanks, and so on. So this autobiography, this memoir, is about what it was really like to live with a spiritual master from India. And also, it has all kinds of stories about the celebrities who followed him, such as the Beatles and Doug Henning, Andy Kaufman, John Gray, so many celebrities that were with him in those days when I was on his personal staff and so forth. So it's a very positively reviewed book. It's apparently an extremely well-written book, at least people tell me. And it's really very engaging, very compelling. And, so Maharishi and Me is the name of the book. And there's more information at, I have a page on my website, myguruandme.com, myguruandme.com. You can check it out there.
Well, Susan, I appreciate you making time for us today. We've simply run out of time, but I do appreciate you making time for us today. You are fantastic. And as always, I appreciate you making time for us today. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, James. I always love talking to you.
Definitely. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, Doctor. Appreciate it, my friend.
You too.
There goes Susan Shumsky. We are going to take a time out. When we come back, we are going to do a little bit more. We're going to talk to another doctor here in a few moments. It's like a doctor day here on the Sunday show. Dr. Paul is coming up here on the Sunday radio broadcast.